Hi friends. Um, I am doing a Get Unready with me today, and I just wanted to come on here and tell you guys a little bit about me and my podcast while I get ready for bed. So let's get started. So first, my name is Carly Ramsey. Um, I'm from Mississippi, if you couldn't tell from the accent. And a lot of times people like to ask me what my hobbies and stuff are. One of the things that I really like doing outside of work and my podcast, I really like pottery. I know, strange, weird. It's not weird, but I feel like most people don't expect me to be like, oh yeah, I like pottery. Um, but pottery, I really like pottery. It's just one of the things that I find calming. Yeah, I've made a few pieces, but I like pottery. And then besides that, one of the hobbies that I was wanting to start this year, I wanted to start either dance or tennis, but not really sure which one. But anyway, enough about my extracurricular activities. Also, enough about my extracurricular activities. I was going to show you guys what I was using on my face. So I'm using Barmacy. This is what I'm using. It's like a cream makeup remover. Although it probably looks like I might not have makeup on, I do. Um, I like going for the clean girl look. That's my thing. But let's get into why you guys really are here. My podcast. So, my podcast, The Serial Zodiac, was really born out of the idea for actually another podcast that I had, really. So the original idea for The Serial Zodiac was to cover a podcast talking about missing black and brown people. I just felt like they didn't get enough coverage, and it's something that I'll probably still do one day. But the research into it at the time was super extensive, and I just didn't I guess know how I would go about doing that without getting publicly available records and reaching out to families, and all the time people don't want to talk about their family member that's been missing for years, and I completely get it. So steered away from that. Took a while to ponder, and I kind of settled on the fact that I love true crime. So I was like, oh, let's do something with that. So for 4 or 5 years, I have been watching this YouTuber called Bailey Sarian, and she does murder mystery makeup Mondays, and that's kind of where it started. But it's not where it started as in that's where my true love for true crime started. I was always that kid that watched the ID channel, so that's kind of where that started. But with Bailey Sarian, I actually ended up finding her because I was obsessed with makeup at the time. I just think it's so pretty, and I think it's so creative what people can do. I've gotten better over the years, but I still can't do eye makeup to save my life. I can do basic eye makeup, but as far as all the colors and the complications that gets into it, I can't do that. I know my strengths. But essentially, I started watching her podcast, and then I was like, I really like true crime. And it took me a year or two to build up the courage to kind of put myself out there. But I actually started my podcast last year. Um, and it was doing pretty well. But I filmed 3 episodes, and then I was like, this is a lot of work. How do people do this? And so I ended up just stopping, and I kind of it wasn't a giving up because I knew I would come back to it eventually. But it was like okay, like put this on pause for right now. I just had a lot going on in my life. But put it on pause, and I started back up last month. And so I have like a couple of new episodes out right now. But I lost my train of thought. But basically, that's kind of how I got into true crime. I like always been this like ID girl, like who loved watching like mysteries and things like that. And that's like me with true crime. So I've had people also ask me like, oh, like how'd you come up with the name the Serial Zodiac? So I am like really into astrology. I know like when I tell men that they think it's a red flag, but I'm like really into astrology and like the stars and the moon and everything. And I wanted to intertwine that into the serial killer world because I was like, I feel like certain zodiac signs have certain like um traits behind those zodiac signs that kind of like causes them to be more like violent or like more susceptible to certain things. And so that was the route that I chose. And I was like, I really like, I know this is like gonna sound wild, but I was like, I really like low key like fucks with serial killers. Um, this is the micellar water that I'm using from Drunk Elephant. But I was like, I really like low key kind of like fucks with like serial killers. Like, what really just makes them tick? Like, why are they the way that they are? And I was just super curious. And then I started doing different research on like different serial killers, obviously. And I was just like, I just became obsessed. I was like, these people are like deranged, and it kind of fascinates me. So I like basically just kind of started looking into serial killers, and I was like, all right, like that's what I want my podcast to be about, like serial killers based off their zodiac signs. And that's how the serial zodiac was kind of born. It took me a while to like think of the name. And then I was honestly just like, I kind of want to do something simple as possible. And so I was like, serial killers, zodiac signs, the serial zodiac, perfect. Um, that's where the name came from. So normally when I tell people that I have a podcast called The Serial Zodiac, their first question is like, oh, like, have you ever covered the Zodiac Killer? And up until recently, I hadn't because one, he was never caught, so we don't know his zodiac sign. And two, I don't know. I like serial killers that haven't been caught are like the creepiest and scariest to me, if you want me to be honest. Because I'm like, you could still be just out here being somebody's grandpa after you've been a fucking horrible person your whole life. But that's neither here nor there. So, um, my podcast was born essentially. From there, I was like, oh, like, I really want to, like, kind of explore different things. And so that's kind of like leading me into some of the things that are like coming up for the serial zodiac. So I decided that it was a lot to have to like research and film because a lot of people don't realize how much research actually goes into like doing a true crime podcast. Because like obviously you don't want to be out here like being factually incorrect. So like a lot of research genuinely like goes into doing a true crime podcast. And so like me, for example, I'll just be honest, I have a writer for my podcast. But even with a writer, I still have to do about 24 hours, like a full day's worth of like my own research, because if I don't, then I'm gonna sound lost. And nobody wants a podcaster or like someone who's talking about true crime who sounds lost, essentially. It looks like I messed up my mascara, but that's okay. But nobody wants like a true crime podcaster who like basically sounds lost. And so like I still have to do my own research even though I have a writer, essentially. So 24, 48 hours, if I'm like just being slow about it, I give that like my research time. And then after I research, then I read my script, because usually by the time I'm doing my research, the script is already ready for that subject, case, whatever you want to call it. Usually the script is already ready for that person. So I will do my research, I will read my script, and then after I do my research, read my script, if there's anything like I want to change or like a different like way I want to structure the episode, I send it back to my writer for revisions. She revises it normally within 24 to 48 hours, and then she gets it back to me and we start recording. When I first started podcasting, I'm not gonna lie, I still do podcasting like in my room, but when I first started, I took like so long to record episodes because I like couldn't find the tone that I wanted. And eventually I kind of just like put it out there because I was like, you know what, like it is what it is. Like it's not going to be perfect. You'll grow as you like get more comfortable with it. So I just put it out there. Put it out there, and honestly to this day, that's probably like one of my top listened to episodes, and I kind of thought it was trash, but a lot of people loved it. And then I disappeared on you guys for a year. My bad, my bad. But I came back strong, and my following was like still there of like my like loyal people who follow my podcast. And so I started back putting out content, and people were like reaching out to me, asking can they be guests on my podcast. And I was like, why don't I put guests on my podcast? Me and my friend were actually talking about it one day, and I was like, I should like start doing guests. I'm not gonna lie, she had to convince me a little bit, but I was like, yeah, like I should start doing guests, like after I like was open to the idea. So that brings me into what you can expect coming from the Serial Zodiac, starting next month. So I'll still be doing my regularly scheduled episodes that come out every week, but in addition to that, once a month, a special episode will come out with me basically telling someone about that episode, and then basically like explaining to them why I chose this episode for them, and also explaining to them like the zodiac signs and like what it means. Basically what I explain to you guys every other Thursday, but I would be explaining it to them and telling them like, this is why I chose this for you, because it relates in this way, or it relates in this way, or whatever. But that's what's kind of like coming up for the Serial Zodiac. I also have a web page that is coming soon, but if you go to theserialzodiac.com, you're able to sign up for my email list. So I'm available on all platforms. Anywhere you can think of to listen to a podcast, I'm there for you. YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, everywhere. So there's no lack of not getting my content. But yeah, that's pretty much me and like how I started the Serial Zodiac. I know I like basically, not that I do like a lot of faceless content, but I feel like some of like my listeners don't, one, know what I look like or like who I am, and they just like listen to my voice all the time, and they probably have questions like, how does she like get to like podcasting and talking about zodiac signs and talking about serial killers? I don't know. Serial killers, they're disturbing. It fascinates me. I don't know. I blame it on watching ID as a small child. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much me, and that's pretty much my podcast and like what you guys can expect for the upcoming months. So, with that being said, I hope that you guys are having the day that you deserve, and you can catch me on this coming up Thursday talking about, I'm not going to tell you the name of the episode that's coming out this week, but I will tell you, I had a lot of sleepless nights over this one. This one was rough. This one was real rough, I'm not going to lie. But it's a good episode. He's a very deranged person, crazy psycho. There's cannibalism, there's children involved, there's like pain versus pleasure aspects, there's all kinds of things, there's nuns, everything. So that's coming out for you guys on Thursday. And I hope you enjoy my podcast. I hope you enjoy this video. And like I said before, I hope that you're having the day that you deserve. Bye.